They conquered worlds with ease, until a single human vessel held the line part too. The 3 weeks passed too quickly. The crew of the Defiant trained day and night with the neural interface system. Each session lasted longer than the one before, pushing the limits of what their minds could handle. Alan Phillips sat in the medical bay as Dr. Olivia Grayson removed the neural sensors from his temples. His head throbbed with a dull ache that had become all too familiar. "How bad is it? Today?" Dr. Grayson asked, checking his pupils with a small light. 6 out of 10, Alan replied, blinking away the spots in his vision. "Better than yesterday." "Your brain is adapting to the neural load," she said, making notes on her tablet. "But I'm still concerned about the long-term effects. None of you were meant to stay linked for combat durations." Alan managed a weak smile. "If we don't stop the Zethkari, long-term effects won't matter much." Dr. Grayson didn't smile back. "Just be careful. The line between linked and lost is thinner than you might think." Alan nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what she meant. The neural link was strange. When connected, he could feel the thoughts of the other crew members, not as words but as impressions, emotions, and instincts. During the longer sessions, it became harder to tell where his consciousness ended and others began. He left the medical bay and headed to the mess hall. The Defiant hummed around him, its corridors busier than usual as the crew prepared for battle. Everyone knew what was at stake. In the mess hall, he found Samantha Wells sitting alone, staring at a bowl of untouched food. Her eyes had dark circles beneath them. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, setting his tray across from her. Samantha looked up as if surprised to see him. "Oh, Alan." "Sure." "Rough session?" he asked, noting the faint red marks on her temples where the neural sensors had been. "It's not the linking that bothers me," she said, pushing her food around with a fork. "It's what I felt from the others, the fear." Alan nodded. He had felt it too, a current of dread running beneath every thought. "Fear keeps us sharp," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. "I've been studying the Zethkari communication patterns," Samantha said, changing the subject. "There's something about them that doesn't make sense. They're too perfect, too precise. Isn't that what we'd expect from a hive mind?" "Yes, but..." She struggled to find the words. "It's like they don't understand improvisation. Every response is calculated, optimal. There's no room for error, but also no room for inspiration." Their conversation was interrupted by the ship-wide alert system. Captain Daniel's voice came over the speakers. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. The Zethkari fleet has been detected crossing Neptune's orbit. All senior officers report to the bridge immediately." Alan and Samantha exchanged a look, then hurried from the mess hall, leaving their meals forgotten. On the bridge, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Captain Daniels stood before the main viewport, hands clasped behind his back as he studied the tactical display. "Status report," he said as Alan and Samantha took their stations. "Earth Defense Fleet is in position," Linda Howard reported from communications. 127 ships formed in defensive layers around Neptune. Admiral Martinez's flagship is leading the front line. "And the Zethkari?" 62 vessels detected so far," Alan said, checking his tactical sensors. "Largest concentration of their forces we've seen in one place. They're not taking any chances with Earth," Captain Daniels murmured. Joe Carter entered the bridge, his uniform rumpled as if he'd been working in the engine room. "Neural interface is ready, Captain. All systems green." "We're to hold position behind Triton," Captain Daniels reminded them. "Observe and analyze only unless ordered otherwise." No one looked happy about it, but they all understood the strategy. The Defiant might be humanity's last card to play. They couldn't risk it too soon. Hours passed in tense silence as they watched the Earth fleet prepare. The Defiant remained hidden in Triton's shadow, sensors extended to monitor the coming battle. "Zethkari fleet has engaged," Alan reported as the first flashes of weapons fire appeared on the tactical display. "Earth fleet is responding with coordinated attack pattern Alpha." On the main screen they watched as human ships moved in precise formations, concentrating fire on the leading edge of the Zethkari line. For a moment it seemed to work. 2 alien vessels showed damage. "They're adapting," Samantha warned, watching the sensor readings. Energy signatures shifting. Before their eyes, the Zethkari fleet changed formation, flowing like water around the human attack pattern. Their return fire was devastating, cutting through shields as if they weren't there. "We've lost 10 ships already," Linda reported, her voice tight. "How are they doing that?" Joe asked, watching as another human vessel exploded. "They're anticipating our tactics," Alan said. "Every move we make, they've already calculated a counter." Captain Daniel's face grew grimmer with each passing minute. The Earth fleet was trying everything, changing formations, varying attack vectors, even attempting to retreat and regroup. Nothing worked. The Zethkari moved as one perfect organism, responding to each human tactic with brutal efficiency. "Admiral Martinez is ordering a full spread of quantum torpedoes," Linda reported. "All ships firing at once." They watched as hundreds of torpedoes streaked toward the Zethkari fleet. For a moment, hope flickered. Then the alien vessels released some kind of energy field that detonated the torpedoes harmlessly in space. "They knew it was coming," Samantha whispered. "They knew exactly what we would do." A massive explosion lit up the display. "Admiral Martinez's flagship is gone," Linda said, her voice hollow. "Command is transferring to Captain Nelson on the Courageous." Captain Daniels stood straighter, his face set. "How many ships have we lost?" 32 destroyed, 17 crippled, Alan replied, checking the grim numbers. "Less than half our fleet remains combat effective." "Captain Nelson is ordering a retreat to Mars orbit," Linda said. "Defensive formation Delta." Before the remains of the Earth fleet could comply, the Zethkari unleashed something new. Tendrils of energy that reached out like living things, wrapping around human ships and crushing them. "What is that?" Joe asked, horrified. "Some kind of directed gravitational weapon," Samantha guessed. "It's collapsing their hulls." In minutes, more than half the remaining ships were destroyed. The retreat became a rout with human vessels fleeing, in all directions. "The Courageous is gone," Linda reported. "Captain Nelson with it." A new alert flashed on her console. "Captain, we're receiving an automated command succession alert. With Admiral Martinez and Captain Nelson gone, fleet command falls to you." Captain Daniels was silent for a long moment, watching as the remnants of humanity's fleet scattered before the advancing Zethkari. "They've never faced a neural-linked ship before," he said finally. "They've never faced unpredictable humans." He turned to face his crew. "Neural interfaces online, we're going in." Alan felt a mix of fear and determination as he prepared his station. The Earth fleet had failed. Conventional tactics had failed. All that stood between Earth and the Zethkari now was the Defiant, one ship with an experimental system and a desperate crew. Linking in 3, 2, 1. Joe counted down. Alan felt the familiar sensation of the neural link activating, a rush of awareness as his mind connected with the ship and his crewmates. But this time, something was different. This time they weren't just training. This time they were humanity's last hope. They conquered worlds with ease, until a single human vessel held the line part. The stars looked different now. Commander Alan Phillips had studied space maps his entire life, but in the last 3 years, 17 star systems had gone dark. 17 worlds conquered, 17 species either enslaved or wiped out. No one knew for sure which fate was worse. Alan stood on the observation deck of the EDF Defiant, watching as the holographic display showed the steady advance of the Zethkari Dominion. Their path of destruction cut through the galaxy like a bow, scythe, methodical and unstoppable. "Sir, the Admiral is waiting in the briefing room," said a young officer who had approached so quietly that Alan hadn't noticed him. "Thank you, Ensign," Alan replied, taking one last look at the map before following the officer down the curved corridor. The briefing room was already full when Alan arrived. Captain Greg Daniels sat at the head of the table, his weathered face showing little emotion despite the gravity of the situation. His blue eyes, sharp and alert, moved from one officer to another as they settled into their seats. Admiral Yuri Petrov's image flickered above the center of the table, his hologram transmitted from Earth Command. "The Zethkari have changed course," the Admiral said without preamble. Their fleet is now heading directly for the Sol system. A heavy silence fell over the room. Everyone had known this day would come, but the reality of it still hit like a physical blow. "How long do we have, Admiral?" Captain Daniels asked, his voice steady. 3 weeks, maybe less," Admiral Petrov replied. "We're mobilizing everything. We have, but after what happened at Tau Ceti..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what had happened at Tau Ceti. The Tau Cetians had possessed quantum weaponry that was centuries ahead of Earth's technology. Their defense had lasted barely 4 days. Lieutenant Samantha Wells, the ship's xenobiologist, cleared her throat. She was younger than most of the senior staff, but her brilliant mind had earned her place at the table. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the Zethkari biological samples we obtained from the wreckage at Arcturus," she said, tapping commands into her tablet to share her findings on the main display. "Their neural structure is unlike anything we've seen before. They function as a hive mind, but not in the way we typically understand it." Images of strange, crystalline brain structures appeared above the table. Each Zethkari ship acts as an independent node that can make its own decisions, but they also share tactical data instantly across vast distances. They learn and adapt as a collective consciousness, which explains why standard tactics fail against them, Alan added. "They recognize patterns almost immediately and counter them before we can execute." Captain Daniels leaned forward. His interest piqued. "Is there any way to disrupt this collective consciousness, Lieutenant?" Samantha hesitated. "Theoretically, yes. Their communication relies on quantized electromagnetic signals. If we could introduce enough noise into their system, it might slow their coordination. But we'd need to get very close to one of their command ships." The Admiral's hologram flickered as he shifted position. "Getting close isn't the problem. Surviving long enough to do anything once you're there has proven impossible so far." An uncomfortable silence filled the room again until Joe Carter, the ship's chief engineer, spoke up. His voice was quiet but firm. "The neural interface system might give us an edge," he said. All eyes turned to him. The Defiance experimental neural interface was a closely guarded secret, a system that allowed direct mental connection between crew members and the ship's systems. "Carter," Captain Daniels said, a warning in his tone. "They need to know, sir," Joe insisted. "We've completed the modifications. The system is stable now. In tests, reaction time is down to 3 milliseconds. That's faster than the Zethkari can adapt." Admiral Petrov's image leaned forward. "What exactly are you suggesting, Engineer Carter?" Joe looked at Captain Daniels, who nodded reluctantly. "The neural interface links the crew's minds directly to the ship's systems and to each other," Joe explained. "It creates a human hive mind of sorts. But unlike the Zethkari, ours isn't based on logic and efficiency. It's chaotic, emotional, intuitive. The ship responds to thoughts and instincts faster than any manual control could, and faster than the Zethkari can predict," Alan added, beginning to understand. "Exactly," Joe said. "They expect logical, predictable tactics, but a neural-linked human crew would be anything but predictable." Linda Howard, the communications officer, spoke up. "The system is still experimental. We've only done limited tests, with 2 or 3 crew members linked at once. How many would we need to effectively operate the ship in combat?" Admiral Petrov asked. "Minimum of 5, Joe replied. "Optimally, the entire bridge crew." The Admiral's hologram looked at Captain Daniels. "This sounds like a significant risk, Captain." Greg Daniels' face remained impassive, but Alan could see the subtle tension in his jaw. "It is," the captain admitted. "The neural load is intense. Extended linking could cause neural feedback, migraines, possibly even permanent damage, but we're running out of options," Alan finished for him. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "The Defiant will join the defensive line at Neptune's orbit. But I want you in reserve, Captain. If the main fleet fails to stop them, you'll be our last line of defense." "With respect, Admiral," Captain Daniels began, "the Defiant should be on the front line. If the neural interface gives us an advantage, that's exactly why you'll be in reserve." Admiral Petrov cut him off. "If the interface works as Engineer Carter suggests, we can't risk losing you in the initial engagement." The rest of the fleet. We'll buy you time to analyze their tactics." Captain Daniels looked like he wanted to argue further, but instead gave a curt nod. "Yes, sir." After the Admiral's hologram disappeared, the senior staff remained seated, the weight of their responsibility settling heavily on their shoulders. 3 weeks, Samantha said quietly. "Can we be ready in that time?" Joe nodded, determination in his eyes. "We'll have to be." "Run neural link drills every day," Captain Daniels ordered. "Increase duration gradually. I want everyone comfortable with the system before we face the Zethkari." As the meeting broke up, Alan remained seated, studying the tactical displays. The Zethkari fleet's trajectory was projected in red, cutting inexorably toward Earth. Captain Daniels approached, standing beside him in silence for a moment. "Do you think it'll work?" Alan asked finally. "The neural interface?" Greg Daniels' weathered face showed the faintest hint of a smile. "The Zethkari have conquered 17 worlds with their perfect coordination and predictable logic. Maybe what they need to face is some human chaos." Alan felt a flicker of hope for the first time in months. 3 weeks to prepare for chaos. I think we can manage that, sir." Outside the viewports of the Defiant, the stars continued to shine, unaware that humanity's last stand was about to begin. They conquered worlds with ease until a single human vessel held the line part. The neural link flowed through Alan like electricity. His mind expanded, touching the thoughts of the others. Samantha's scientific curiosity, Joe's technical precision, Linda's emotional awareness, and Captain Daniels' iron determination. 5 minds became one, yet each remained distinct. The Defiant itself seemed to come alive around them, responding to their collective will rather than individual commands. Emerging from Triton's shadow, Captain Daniels said aloud, though they all felt his intention through the link before he spoke. The Defiant shot forward, its engines glowing bright blue against the blackness of space. Instead of joining the remains of the human fleet retreating toward Mars, they accelerated directly toward the center of the Zethkari formation. Through the link, Alan felt Joe directing power from non-essential systems to strengthen the shields. He felt Samantha analyzing the Zethkari energy signatures, looking for patterns. He felt Linda broadcasting their presence on all frequencies, making sure the enemy noticed them. "They're changing formation to intercept us," Alan reported. The tactical display showing 5 Zethkari vessels breaking away from the main group. Through the neural link, they all saw it at once. The perfect, predictable pattern of the alien approach. 5 ships moving to surround the Defiant in a standard containment formation. "They think we'll run," Samantha realized, the thought flowing through the link to all of them. "Let's disappoint them," Captain Daniels replied with grim humor. Instead of retreating, the Defiant accelerated even faster. Through the link, they made adjustments no human crew could coordinate with normal communications. Minor thruster bursts, power redistributions, shield harmonics changing by fractions of a percent. The first Zethkari vessel fired, a stream of energy that should have hit the Defiant's port side, but the ship wasn't where it was supposed to be, having moved in a way that defied conventional tactics. The beam passed through empty space. "They missed," Joe said, surprise and triumph in his voice. Through the link, they all felt it, a ripple of confusion from the Zethkari. The aliens had predicted the Defiant's evasion pattern based on standard human tactics, but the neural-linked crew hadn't followed any pattern at all. They had responded with pure instinct, faster than thought. "Again," Captain Daniels ordered. Unnecessary through the link, but reassuring to hear. The Defiant danced between enemy vessels, moving in ways that made no tactical sense but kept them constantly out of target lock. The Zethkari fired repeatedly, but each shot found only empty space where the human ship should have been. "They're adapting," Alan warned as the alien vessels began to spread out in a new formation, trying to limit our movement options. Through the link, he felt Samantha's mind light up with a realization. Their shield frequency. The thought flowed to all of them instantly. Samantha had noticed that the Zethkari shields flickered in a regular pattern, recycling every 4.3 seconds with a microsecond gap in coverage. Joe understood immediately, redirecting power to the main cannon and calculating the precise timing. Ready to fire on your mark. Captain Daniels didn't need to give the order aloud. Through the link, they all felt his decision in the same instant. The Defiant spun in a maneuver that would have been impossible to coordinate without the neural interface, bringing its main cannon to bear on the nearest Zethkari vessel just as its shields recycled. The beam struck home, boring through the alien hull. The Zethkari ship shuddered, strange lights flickering along its surface. "We hit it," Linda exclaimed. "Actual damage." Through the link, they all felt each other's surge of triumph. For the first time since they had entered known space, a Zethkari vessel had been wounded. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate. More ships broke away from the main formation, changing course to surround the Defiant. No longer an irritant, the human vessel had become a priority target. "We've got their attention," Alan said, feeling the tactical situation through the link. 8 vessels closing in fast. Captain Daniels' mind projected calm determination through the link. Good. Phase 2. The Defiant changed course again, this time heading for the gap between 2 massive Zethkari ships. It was a suicidal move by any standard tactical assessment. The gap was barely wider than the Defiant itself, and both alien vessels would have clear shots from close range. Alan felt doubt flicker through the link from Linda. "Sir, they'll catch us in a crossfire." "They expect us to avoid the narrow gap," Captain Daniels replied. "They'll anticipate us breaking left or right, so we go straight through." The Defiant accelerated toward the gap. On the view screen, the 2 Zethkari vessels loomed larger, like massive walls closing in on either side. The alien ships fired, but not at where the Defiant was. They fired at where it should have been if it had followed tactical doctrine and veered away from the gap. Through the link, Alan felt Samantha studying the Zethkari energy signatures more closely. Their weapons have a recharge cycle, 7 seconds after a full power shot. Joe's mind raced with calculations. If we time it right? The thought flowed through all of them at once. A perfectly coordinated plan that would have taken minutes to explain verbally formed in an instant. Through the neural link. The Defiant shot through the gap between the alien vessels so close that the shield sparked against their hull. The moment they cleared the gap, Captain Daniels ordered a full stop, another move no tactical computer would ever recommend. The Defiant halted directly behind one of the Zethkari ships, in its blind spot, just as the alien vessel's weapons were in their recharge cycle. "Fire," Captain Daniels ordered. The Defiant's weapons struck precisely as the Zethkari shields recycled. Another hit, another wounded alien ship. "They're confused," Samantha said, analyzing the energy patterns of the Zethkari communications. "Their coordination is breaking down." Through the link, they felt each other's growing confidence. The Zethkari weren't invincible after all. Their perfect coordination depended on being able to predict their enemy's actions, and the neural-linked crew of the Defiant was proving impossible to predict. "The other human ships are regrouping," Linda reported, feeling a surge of transmissions from the scattered Earth fleet. "They're watching what we're doing." "Let's give them something worth watching," Captain Daniel said. The Defiant spun and accelerated again, diving into the heart of the Zethkari formation. Through the neural link, the crew coordinated maneuvers that would have been impossible otherwise, firing at one ship while evading another, redirecting power microseconds before it was needed, predicting and countering the Zethkari tactics, even as the aliens tried to do the same to them. For every move the Zethkari predicted, the humans made 3 that were completely unexpected. The neural link gave them speed, but their human unpredictability gave them the true advantage. Alan felt a change in the link. Samantha's mind had made another breakthrough. Their communications, she projected to all of them. They rely on perfect mathematical patterns. They literally cannot understand randomness. Linda's mind connected with this idea immediately. We could disrupt their entire coordination system, not just avoid their predictions, but actively confuse them. Through the link, Captain Daniels considered the idea. weighing risks and possibilities faster than words could express. How? Joe's technical mind provided the answer. We can modify our communication array to broadcast neural patterns directly into their network. Human thoughts, emotions, memories, things that follow no logical pattern they could understand. Would require dropping shields for at least 30 seconds to reroute the power, Alan cautioned. Captain Daniels made his decision, the determination flowing through the link to all of them. Do it. But first we need to get into position. The Defiant changed course again, heading for the largest Zethkari vessel at the center of their formation, the apparent command ship. If they could disrupt the coordination from the source, the entire alien fleet might fall into disarray. As they approached, more Zethkari ships moved to intercept. The neural-linked crew pushed themselves and the ship harder, performing maneuvers that strained both human minds and ship systems. Through the link, Alan felt the others' fatigue. The neural interface was taking its toll, creating feedback, headaches, and mental strain. Almost there, Captain Daniels encouraged them, his own mind showing signs of the strain but refusing to yield. The command ship grew larger on the view screen. They were going to make it. They were going to change the course of the war, and then everything went wrong. They conquered worlds with ease until a single human vessel held the line part 4A new type of Zethkari weapon hit the Defiant's starboard side. The ship shuddered violently, and the neural link flickered like a dying light bulb. Alan felt the other's mind slip away from his for a moment before the connection stabilized again. Damage report, Captain Daniels called out, both verbally and through the link. Joe's consciousness flooded the link with technical data. Direct hit to decks 4 through 7. Shields down to 38%. Power fluctuations across all systems. The neural interface? Daniels asked, concern evident in his mind. Holding but stressed, Joe replied. That hit caused feedback through the system. Alan felt it too. A sharp pain behind his eyes echoed in the minds of his crewmates. The neural link was never designed to handle combat damage. Dr. Grayson's warning about the thin line between linked and lost suddenly seemed more immediate. Through the view screen, they saw the Zethkari command ship growing larger. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of the Defiant, with strange organic patterns flowing across its surface like liquid metal. More ships closing in, Alan reported, the tactical display showing 5 Zethkari vessels moving to intercept. They're trying to box us in. Linda's mind projected surprise through the link. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from the remaining Earth ships. They're regrouping and heading this way. They saw what we did and they're coming to help. They don't stand a chance with conventional tactics, Samantha worried. Captain Daniels made a quick decision. Send them everything we've learned about the Zethkari shield cycles and weapon recharge rates. Tell them to be unpredictable. No standard formations, no textbook maneuvers. Linda sent the transmission, adding something extra through the link. An emotional component. A sense of urgency and determination that normal communications couldn't convey. They're acknowledging, she reported. Changing their approach vectors now. The Defiant rocked again as another hit struck their port side. The neural link wavered and Alan felt Samantha's mind briefly disconnect before returning. Shields at 22%, Joe reported. We won't survive another direct hit. Through the link, Captain Daniels projected calm determination. We need to get close enough to the command ship to broadcast our neural patterns into their network. How long? Will you need to reconfigure the communications array? 34 seconds, Joe calculated, and we'll need to drop shields completely to route enough power. We'll be completely vulnerable, Alan said. Captain Daniels didn't hesitate. It's our only option. Linda, prepare to channel your consciousness through the communications array. Focus on your most chaotic emotional memories and thoughts. Linda nodded both physically and through the link. Ready when you are, Captain. Joe, plot a course that will take us directly under the command ship's main sensor array. Alan, prepare to fire all weapons at these coordinates the moment before we drop shields. Samantha, analyze their response patterns and help us time this. Perfectly. Through the link, they all understood the plan instantly. It was risky, perhaps suicidal, but it might just work. The Defiant changed course, diving toward the Zethkari command ship at maximum speed. The alien vessels fired repeatedly, but the neural-linked crew anticipated each shot, making micro-adjustments faster than any normal human reflexes could manage. The Earth fleet is engaging the outer defense ships, Alan reported, feeling a burst of pride. They're using random approach vectors, no patterns for the Zethkari to predict. In position in 5 seconds, Joe announced, his mind calculating trajectories and power requirements simultaneously. The huge bulk of the command ship loomed above them, its surface alive with strange energies. Now, Captain Daniels ordered. Alan fired all weapons at once, targeting the exact point Samantha had identified as sensor nodes. The beams struck home just as the shields on those sections recycled, causing cascading damage across the alien vessel's surface. Dropping shields, Joe said. Rerouting power to communications array. Beginning reconfiguration. The Defiant hung, exposed beneath the massive Zethkari ship. Through the link, Alan felt everyone's anxiety spike. 34 seconds had never seemed so long. Zethkari vessels are targeting us, Alan warned. Impact in 20 seconds. Reconfiguration at 40%, Joe reported. Need more time. Samantha's mind suddenly lit up with an idea. The hull material, it resonates with certain frequencies. If we modulate our engine output, we might create enough electromagnetic interference to confuse their targeting systems. Joe understood immediately, making the adjustments through the link without needing further explanation. The Defiant's engines changed pitch, emitting a pulsing field that washed over the Zethkari ship above them. It's working, Alan confirmed, watching the tactical display. Their targeting systems are losing lock, impact delayed. Reconfiguration at 75%, Joe updated. Almost there. Linda prepared herself, her mind opening up within the link. Alan felt flashes of her memories. A childhood birthday party, her first heartbreak, the joy of her academy graduation, the fear when the Zethkari first appeared, emotions with no pattern, thoughts with no logic, the beautiful chaos of a human. Mind reconfiguration complete, Joe announced. Communications array ready. Broadcast now, Captain Daniels ordered. Linda's consciousness flowed through the ship's systems, amplified and directed by the modified communications array. Her thoughts, memories, and emotions, the entire unpredictable landscape of a human, mind broadcast directly into the Zethkari communication network. The effect was immediate and visible. The command ship's surface patterns began to flicker erratically. Energy discharges sparked across its hull with no apparent pattern. Their coordination is breaking down, Samantha reported, excitement flowing through the link. They literally cannot process what they're receiving. Through the link, Alan felt a strange feedback. Echoes of Linda's broadcast returning with something else mixed in. Confusion. The Zethkari hive mind was experiencing confusion, perhaps for the first time. Shields back online, Joe announced. As power returned to the defensive systems, the effect is spreading through their fleet, Samantha observed. Their ships are losing coordination. On the tactical display, they watched as the precise formation of the Zethkari fleet began to falter. Ships moved in contradictory directions, some firing weapons at empty space, others colliding with each other. It's like we've introduced a virus into their system, Alan said. A virus of human unpredictability. Send this to the Earth fleet, Captain Daniels ordered. Tell them to broadcast anything random on all frequencies. Music, poetry, random number sequences, anything without a perfect pattern. Linda relayed the order, her mind still partially engaged with the broadcast. The remaining human ships immediately began transmitting a cacophony of signals, everything from classical music to sports commentary, children's nursery rhymes to random static. The chaos spread through the Zethkari fleet like a wave. More ships began to move erratically, their perfect coordination shattered by input they had no framework to understand. They're retreating, Alan announced in disbelief as the tactical display showed Zethkari vessels breaking formation and moving away from Earth. Not all of them, but at least a third of their fleet. Captain Daniel's mind projected cautious optimism through the link. Continue broadcast. Push the advantage. The Defiant moved out from under the command ship, shields restored and weapons ready. The neural link remained strong, connecting the crew in perfect harmony even as they projected chaos to the enemy. The remaining Earth ships are following our lead, Linda reported. Continuing random broadcasts and unpredictable attack patterns, Alan felt a wave of hope flow through the link shared between all of them. For the first time since the Zethkari appeared, humanity had found a way to fight back, not with superior technology or firepower, but with the one thing that made humans unique, their wonderful, beautiful unpredictability. The tide is turning, Captain Daniel said. But this battle is far from over. They conquered worlds with ease, until a single human vessel held the line part. 5. The battle for Earth continued for another 18 hours. The neural-linked crew of the Defiant remained at the center of it all, guiding the remaining human fleet. Each time the Zethkari attempted to adapt to the chaos, the humans simply changed their approach, introducing new forms of unpredictability. Alan felt the strain through the neural link. None of them had ever stayed connected this long. His head pounded with a steady throbbing pain, and he could feel similar discomfort from the others. The human mind wasn't designed for this kind of prolonged connection. Zethkari command ship is moving away from Earth orbit, he reported, watching the tactical display through eyes that struggled to stay focused. 10 more vessels following it. That makes 37 ships in full retreat, Linda said, her mental voice weaker than before. Almost 2/3 of their original force. Captain Daniel's presence in the link had grown quieter over the past few hours, but his determination remained undiminished, and our losses. 52 Earthships destroyed or disabled, Samantha reported. 43 still operational to some degree. We've lost more ships, but they're losing the battle. Joe's consciousness flickered in the link, his attention divided between maintaining the neural interface and managing the Defiant's damaged systems. Captain, the interface is becoming unstable. I'm detecting dangerous levels of neural feedback. We need to disconnect soon. Through the link, they all felt the truth of his warning. The dull headaches had grown into splitting migraines. Strange. Thoughts and memories were bleeding between their connected minds. The line between individual consciousness was blurring. Not yet, Captain Daniels insisted. We need to make sure they're really retreating, not regrouping. Alan focused on the tactical display, trying to maintain his concentration despite the pain. The remaining Zethkari vessels were moving toward the edge of the solar system, their once perfect formation now a scattered retreat. Their coordination is still disrupted, Samantha observed. The random broadcasts have completely overwhelmed their communication systems. Linda suddenly gasped, both physically and through the link. Captain, I'm picking up something new. The Zethkari command ship is broadcasting a signal I've never seen before. They all felt Linda's surprise as she analyzed the transmission. It's not directed at their fleet, I think it's directed at us, at the Defiant specifically. Can you decode it? Captain Daniels asked. I'm trying, but it's unlike any language pattern I've encountered. Linda paused, her confusion flowing through the link. It's becoming more chaotic, less structured, almost as if they're trying to imitate us, Samantha finished, the realization dawning across all their connected minds simultaneously. They're learning, adapting not by becoming more efficient but by becoming more like us. Captain Daniels considered this development, his thoughts open to them all through the link. Is it a trick? A new strategy to counter our advantage? I don't think so, Samantha replied. The patterns suggest genuine adaptation. They've encountered something they couldn't process using their existing framework, so they're creating a new framework. They're evolving, Alan said, the implications clear. The Zethkari weren't just retreating, they were transforming. I think, Linda began, then winced as a particularly sharp pain shot through the link. I think they're trying to communicate with us, not to coordinate an attack, but to Talk. Captain Daniels made his decision. Respond to their signal. Use the same chaotic patterns but insert basic mathematical sequences they would recognize. Create a foundation for communication. Linda shaped her thoughts as directed, sending a response through the still-modified communications array. The neural link allowed her to craft a message that blended human unpredictability with enough structure for the Zethkari to understand. Minutes passed as they waited for a response. The retreating Zethkari ships continued to move away from Earth, but slower now, as if hesitating. Captain, Joe warned again, his presence in the link becoming dangerously faint. The neural interface is at critical levels. We have maybe 10 minutes before permanent neural damage begins. Through the link, they felt Captain Daniels acknowledge the warning, weighing the risks against the historic possibility of communication with the enemy. 5 more minutes, he decided. Then we disconnect regardless. Just as he finished speaking, a new transmission arrived from the Zethkari command ship. Linda processed it through the link, sharing her understanding with the others instantly. It's crude, but I think they're offering to stop the attack, she said with wonder. Not just a temporary retreat, a complete cessation of hostilities. Why? Alan asked. They were winning the war until we introduced the chaos factor. Samantha's scientific mind provided the most logical explanation. We showed them something they had never encountered before: unpredictability, creativity, chaos within order. Their entire civilization seems built on perfect patterns and predictability. We've fundamentally challenged their understanding of existence. Are they afraid of us now? Joe wondered. Not afraid, Linda said, still processing the alien communication. Fascinated. We're as alien to them as they are to us, but in the opposite way. Where they are perfect order, we are beautiful chaos. Captain Daniels considered their options. Send a response. Tell them we accept the cessation of hostilities and propose a meeting to establish formal communication protocols. Linda crafted the message, sending it through the neural link into space. The response came quickly this time, as if the Zethkari were eager to reply. They agree, Linda announced. They're proposing a neutral location at the edge of the solar system. Neural interface at critical levels, Joe warned, his mind showing signs of severe strain. We need to disconnect now. Captain Daniels nodded, both physically and through the link. Shut it down. One by one, they disconnected from the neural interface. The sensation was jarring, like falling after flying, like sudden blindness after perfect vision. Alan gasped as his mind returned fully to his body, the pain in his head sharp but already beginning to fade now that the link was broken. Around the bridge, the others were having similar reactions. Linda slumped in her chair, exhausted. Joe wiped blood from his nose. Samantha blinked rapidly, as if remembering how to use her eyes independently. Captain Daniels stood unsteadily, gripping the edge of his command chair for support. Status report, he ordered, his voice hoarse. The Zethkari fleet is maintaining position at the edge of the system, Alan reported, checking the tactical display with eyes that felt strangely limited now. No signs of aggressive movement. All Earth vessels reporting in, Linda added. They're awaiting instructions. Tell them to maintain combat readiness but take no aggressive action, Captain Daniels ordered. And notify Earth Command that we've established preliminary communication with the Zethkari. Samantha looked up from her science station, her eyes bright despite her exhaustion. Captain, do you realize what this means? We may have just changed the course of the war, not by destroying the enemy, but by helping them understand us. Captain, Daniels nodded. For 3 years they conquered worlds with ease, until they met a species whose strength wasn't in uniformity but in diversity, not in perfect logic but in beautiful chaos. Joe managed a weak smile. Human unpredictability for the win. It's more than that, Linda said softly. We showed them something new, something they had never encountered in all their conquests. We showed them that there's more than one way to think, to exist, to understand the universe. Captain Daniels looked around at his crew, no longer linked in mind but still connected by what they had experienced together. Then he gazed out at the view screen, toward the distant stars where 17 conquered worlds waited. "The battle for Earth is over," he said. "But I think our real mission is just beginning." Alan nodded, understanding perfectly. The Defiant had held the line against the Zethkari invasion, but perhaps its greater purpose would be to build a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of intelligence. "What do we do now, Captain?" he asked. "We rest," Captain Daniels replied. "We repair our ship, and then we go meet our new neighbors. It seems we have a lot to teach each other." Outside the view screen, Earth continued its peaceful orbit around the sun, still safe, still free. And at the edge of the solar system, the Zethkari waited, their perfect order now touched by the first sparks of beautiful human chaos. The end.